Hey, hey, welcome to another episode of Transitions with Dr. Tam. Let me start with saying good morning. And I understand that it might not be morning at the time that you are listening to this, but baby, when I tell you it is morning for me, because it is before 6 a.m. on a Monday morning. So let me tell you what happened real quick. What happened is I took out the trash, and it is about 40 something degrees outside, and the air woke me up. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. And if you are watching this on YouTube, I am fully dressed for work, even though I don't have to be to work for another 2 hours and some change. But I figured, you know what? I can be up at 5 in the morning and make a whole podcast because I'm not waking anybody up. I don't have to tiptoe around the house. But the other thing is, it was cold outside and I underestimated how cold it is. So shout out to my sons for having that responsibility for so many years. Babies, your mother is grateful for you. But now it's my job again. It's back to being my job. So we're here now. But that is all to say, it's a beautiful November morning. I am a Northeast Coast girl. So this kind of weather is actually delightful for me. And it's also my birthday month. I'm going to be 44 at the end of the month. And this time last year, I did a series of episodes on Thankful Thursdays, but I wanted to do something different this time. I wanted to talk about just lessons I have learned. And some of that is because I've learned so many recently. And at 43 years old, you would think that I have a lot of learning behind me, which I do, but I have so many things ahead of me. And I tell you, this just season of my life has been a crash course on Tamika. And I want to share some of those lessons with you. Now, because I'm over 40, I forget stuff. So I'm not going to leave it up to my memory to just speak off of memory, but I do want to still speak from my heart. So I'm going to read to you parts of what I've written and let that be today's episode. So I've got them broken down by section. Here we go. This first section is called The Lessons That Come with Age. As I get ready to turn 44, I keep hearing my mom's voice in my head echoing, "Keep living." She used to say that whenever I was a little bit too sure about how the world worked. But baby, I knew nothing. Back then, I thought it was shade, but now I understand it was wisdom. I understand that a woman her age was not going to argue with someone who was mine. I understand that what she understood is that as time goes on, I will understand life as she knows it. And now that phrase, keep living, follows me into this new season of life. When my kids call me about things that feel catastrophic to them, friendships ending, jobs that ghost them, or relationships that are in chaos, I just listen and smile. Because I've been 18, 19, and 20. I've been away from home for the first time. I remember when every emotion felt loud and when every heartbreak felt final. I remember every dream delayed felt like failure. And yet, those same moments that once broke my heart actually built my foundation. So when I tell my kids it's going to be all right, I'm not minimizing their pain. I'm speaking from the other side of mine. And now I get what mom meant when she would say, keep living. What she meant to say was, you'll see, you'll understand it soon enough. So what I've learned is that sometimes peace isn't in the explanation. It's not because after the experience, I figured it all out. What peace is the experience. It's the understanding that you cannot shortcut growth. You just have to live through it. And on this side of parts of my journey, I've lived through it and I'm here to tell the story. So as I was writing that, I was thinking about some of the more recent conversations that I'm having with my college children, my adult kids, and things that are big to them. And I have to be very sensitive to the fact that they are big to them. I had a conversation with my daughter who was 19. As she just, gave me her rendition of things, I said to her, okay, so how do you want me to approach my response? Do you want me to be your mom? who knows you and knows your nuances? Do you want me to be a therapist who can just give you a world view and say, hey, so why don't we try to approach it from this understanding? Do you want me to roast you because some of this is just downright silly? Or do you want me to just come from an older woman who had a 24-year head start on life? She said, I picked the latter. And that's what I did. I just talked to her as if she is coming to her mentor to ask questions. And so I can confidently say, you'll be fine because nothing that she said was new. And so it reminds me of the scripture that says there's nothing new under the sun. Even though Instagram might be new, influencer life might be new, even though certain parts of how the world works might be new. Those are just methods. The message is still the same. It's still a coming of ages story. It's still a matter of how could a person deny, betray, mishandle me, right? It's been happening since the beginning of time. And I mean, since the very first humans, betrayal has happened. Adam, where are you? Right? And so this isn't new. It's not new to me. But it was interesting in the moment of listening to my daughter and at moments my sons, when they tell me certain things, I just sit back and I'm just like, mm-hmm. And I can almost tell them what's next. Like, and did she say this or did he do this? Baby, that's par for the course. All that to say, yeah, with age just comes certain wisdom if you allow it to. And even if you choose not to be wise, you understand that you're being foolish because you've seen this before. You've been through this before. You understand that cars break down. So your lack of maintenance is not because of lack of knowledge, it's because of lack of effort or lack of integrity, right? So at this age, sometimes I think we know we're being dumb. We know we're being foolish. We're just hoping that nobody calls us out on it or we get away with it. But yeah, for her and the boys, this might be new to them. But I'm just grateful that I have a good relationship with my children to where they can come to me, but I am also grateful that I'm able to ask them, which version of your mother do you want to experience? Because LaShawn wanted to roast her. Girl, I know you didn't, right? Like LaShawn wanted to do that, but Dr. Tam had to kick in, Mama had to kick in, and just Tamika had to speak to her. And so we ended that conversation with her feeling better. And I love that for her. I love that for me because there are things that I am currently experiencing. But in the middle of this journey, I don't have as many fears moving forward because it all works out for the good, right? And keep living, Ari, but also keep living, Tam. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Yeah. All right. So, speaking of keep living, let's go on to my next section, which is about this last season of Love is Blind. And we're going to call that Love is Blind through the lens of maturity. When the first season of Love is Blind dropped in 2020, it was fresh, it was new, it was fascinating. And the idea that love could blossom from sight unseen felt so idealistic. And I was hooked. I loved every minute of it. But now, 5, 6 years later, several seasons later, this last season ended with nobody saying, I do. And I realized that that's not just about the people who made up the cast, it's also about the culture. The more seasons you have of a reality show, the less real the reality becomes because people know the angles. And the producers, they also start matching people for drama and not destiny. So here's what hit me in real time. At 43, I can't watch this show the same way I did because it doesn't feel like entertainment anymore. It actually feels like exposure. I can see people's real trauma playing out on international TV. I can see abandonment and insecurity playing out in adult relationships while millions watch and have speculations, comments, and opinions. And when you've done your own healing work, when you've lived through enough, You just can't laugh at that. You actually feel compassion and sometimes a little bit of anger, because somewhere in between 20 and 40, you realize that the real plot twist is how much grace you need because of how much growing you have yet to do. So that's what keep living means too. It's the moment you start seeing life through compassion instead of judgment. It's when you start rooting for people's healing instead of being entertained by their drama. Y'all, this past season had me shook, for lack of a better word, because I saw some cast members who I feel like should have never been casted. And if you know, you know, and you know who I'm talking about. But because when I heard his story, I recognized that a lot of people who should have been there were not there for whatever part of their journey they were on at the time in his upbringing. But what you have is a person who genuinely wants to be loved, but might not have all of the tools or support to walk into one of the most important decisions of your life, fully capable of handling rejection, because he's already stomached that in some very painful ways. So when that type of life hits you, when hurt hits you, it hits you in a very devastating way because you're also battling, did I deserve this? What did I do to merit this? And yeah, how do you bounce back from that, right? So when you've lived through it and you've overcome it, you have a little bit more compassion for people who are going through it, but you also have a different type of compassion with people who are going through it without the support that you had when you went through it. And it just makes me feel like it's unfair. So while I understand that a show needs ratings to continue on at the expense of people, I'm not cool with that. So I wish I could have a conversation with the casting directors, with the producers of this past season of Love is Blind, because how dare you? That's exposure. That's not entertainment. It's cruel. That's not TV, right? Yeah, we're not going to do that. So that's a thing. When the show first started, its intended audience and its intended purpose was people like me, love unrequited, but still desired. And because the first season went well and the first season's most successful couple is still thriving and just welcome their first child into the world, I think a lot of us still want that. But what society knows is that your Instagram following comes up. And sometimes the person who was heartbroken on a season or on a show like this becomes the star of the next season or becomes a host of a new reality show. So I can imagine, not to say this to be true or the case with anyone on this particular season, but I can imagine that there are cast members who may say, should love happen? Cool. But I have other things that I can gain from this exposure. I could gain some networking opportunities. Sometimes it's not even a matter of a person wanting to go on the show so that way they can be famous, but so that they can find love. If I don't end up finding love with the person that I match with, I end up finding love with someone who watched me fail in this experiment, right? So yeah, there's still some opportunist mindset that I feel like people who are auditioning go in for. And I feel like maybe not necessarily particularly with Love is Blind, but just reality shows, period. I think sometimes casting directors play on that. I think they see a potential villain and understand that this character or personality could bring some drama, even though he or she is completely unserious in this casting call. I also understand producers are switching up and doing all the things and also creating drama where there actually isn't an issue, because there are some things that would roll off my back in real life. But if I'm having a producer in my ear saying, hey, go and ask him about why he's been texting so much, I don't care that he's texting so much. It gives me time to do me as an introvert that actually needs to recharge. But because I've been told, go ask him why he's texting. You just created an argument that didn't have to exist. And I got to lean into that moment. So it's just, those are things that I understand at 44. It's not fair. What they did in this last season was, in my opinion, unnecessary and a little cruel. But that's because at 44, certain things that were once funny, it's just not funny anymore. It's just not fun anymore. And it's not fun anymore. I can't tell you when was the last time I watched Married at First Sight. In fact, I know some people who like love scary things. And so if I'm in a conversation, they're like, oh, I can't wait till Fright Night, whatever. I'm like, oh, you like scary stuff? I got something scary for you. And they're like, really? What? Well, it's not a movie, but it's a show. And every episode is scarier than the last. Let me send you a screenshot of it. When they open it up and it's Married at First Sight, they be like, Tamika. I'm like, what? This is scary. This is terrifying. To marry a complete stranger off of a questionnaire that may or may not be truthfully answered and have to play your marriage out in front of the entire world and come back to the backlash of what strangers think about your decisions and your choices and behaviors and forever be known as a villain or the angry Black woman. Yeah. Horrible, scary, scary. This is Fright Night for you, right? And they would just laugh. But I remember when I used to watch the show and just be like, oh my gosh, I could see myself doing that because it takes out all the guesswork. Absolutely not. Now, having lived a little bit longer and understand the world a little bit differently, and not just the people that I'd be matched with or connected to, but when I understand the intentions of production, how scary they are and how much they will do at the expense of your safety and sanity to create an exciting series. Oh, no. Horrified. I am terrified of being on those matchmaking love-esque reality shows. So yeah, that is what I've learned. Number 2, certain things that were cool then is not even cool now. Compassion over content every time. All right, back to the script. My next section is going to be about growth, grace, and gratitude. So here is what I have written. So here I am, almost 44, realizing that I've learned a lot, and I still have a lot left to learn. I've learned that life really does soften if you let it. I've learned that some things that once felt like rejection were actually redirection. And I learned that healing isn't always loud. Sometimes it's gradual and it's very quiet. It's the moment that you realize that something that used to bother you doesn't bother you anymore, or something that you used to let slide is now a deal breaker. I've also learned that I get to be excited for what's next, for whatever lessons God has tucked into my next season, into my next chapter. Faith means something different. Because keep living isn't just a statement, it's an invitation to grow, to evolve, and to see yourself with new eyes. And even when you think you have it all figured out, life still has so much more to teach you. So when I talk about faith means something different, a lot of me in my younger years, faith was tied to an outcome. It was tied to, I trust that the next job will be better. I trust that I'll meet the one, right? My faith is connected to so many invisible, intangible things now because I don't know if the right one will ever appear. I don't know if the job of my dreams will happen. But what I do know is I'm going to be okay. My faith is tied to the people who are meant to be in my life will surface. And whether that results in love and marriage, I don't know. But I know that the people who are meant to be in my life will surface. And I also recognize that those things that I thought I needed, I will look back and say, oh, I had it all along. Why do I say that? If you followed me, you've heard this story before, but it's the one that rings true and rings very loud. I remember when I went to the Louvre and I stood in front of the Mona Lisa and I cried. And it was because I was at a place in my life where I can't believe I'm here. I thought that a trip to Paris was impossible at one point because a single woman with 3 children on that salary could never afford to go to Paris. I also thought that ministry would be the way that I get there. Like at some point, my husband and I, who are co laborers in ministry, we are going to travel the world and do missionary trips and preach together. And that's how I'm going to get to Paris. I had no idea that I was going to find a cheap round trip ticket to London and spend an extra $52 to go on a bullet train under the English Channel and end up in Paris on my own dime, on my own time, of my own accord. You could not have paid me to believe that that was going to be the case. So as I stood face to face in front of the Mona Lisa with a little rope separating me from her, I saw myself in her. What I saw was that my life has been God's canvas. And he finds all of the strokes beautiful, and people will have an opinion, and people will have thoughts, and they will always be kind, and they will always be what the master intended when he painted me. But I am a masterpiece nonetheless. There are people who will never see me in person who admire my story and my strength. I am a light. I am an artifact. I am a pillar. I represent and exude overcoming, even though at the moments my life felt very overwhelming. But I was perfectly drawn. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. And it doesn't mean that I don't have flaws, but it doesn't diminish the quality of who I am. And yeah, I'm here in front of the Mona Lisa. And this isn't the last time I'm going to be able to say I'm here. But because I remember when I thought that that moment would be impossible, and I could never have planned it the way it ended up happening, I also recognize that that's the tone of my life, like there's a story I have yet to tell, but when I tell it, I'm going to say, I had no idea this was coming. I could not have made this up if I wrote it out, but to God be the glory. And I'm thankful for those lessons learned. So all of that to say, on this episode of Transitions with Dr. Tam, that I am reminded that life is a constant teacher. And there are some tests that I am going to fail and have to retake, but I am not a failure. And there are certain things that I'm just going to soar through and skip through and all that kind of stuff. But if there's anything that I have learned over the years, is that we're here to help someone else get through. And not that our story will be their shortcut. It may just be their blueprint. It might just be the hope that they need, that every tear is meaningful and every heartbreak is deep, but you will smile again. Joy is possible. Life is still worth living. And if you get through this, you will also have built the stamina, the fortitude, and the wherewithal to know that getting through it is what we do. It's just what we do. So yeah, I guess at the end of this episode, I do have a name for it. It's keep living. Keep living. Keep living.